Okay, good evening, everyone. We are going to do chapters 24 through 28 of Genesis. We actually perhaps could do 29, but 24 and 25 and 29 sort of go together. But anyway, I don't want to start the Jacob story too soon. So, okay, the promised child has been born. See, the story of Abraham and the promise, both of the land and progeny and whatnot. Finally, he's born, Isaac, right? And his name means joke, laughter, because no one would believe that such a thing was possible. So we're going to do the story of Isaac tonight. And, for someone who's supposed to be the promised child, the child of the promise, he doesn't get much text, which is interesting, as opposed to his son Jacob, who gets a lot of text. And the whole Jacob story will occupy the rest of Genesis, starting in chapter 29. So that will tell us something, but we're not there yet. So I trust you've already. I always trust that you've read the chapters beforehand and whatnot. And again, I say before we start, if you have any questions ever, just send me an email. And I will gladly either respond or think about them and maybe incorporate it into answers into what we're doing. So let's do chapter 24. And remember, Sarah has just died. Okay, Sarah has just died. She's out of the picture. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his house, who had charge of all he had, put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, your translation, or Yahweh, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not get a wife for my son among the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I live, but will go to my country, to my kindred, and get a wife for my son Isaac. Okay, again, just remember, Abraham, now Isaac, they're just sort of sojourners. They're traveling up and down, as nomads. Okay, they're not really rooted in the land yet, except what we had just in the burial, this little piece of land to bury the dead. Okay, so even though there's a promise that this land will be yours, blah blah blah, and descendants great and so on, it's just he's a nomad, but he doesn't want the influence of the Canaanites coming into his house, hence the daughters of the Canaanites. So this is the utmost importance, the wife of his promised son. Now, someone has asked me, put your hand under my thigh. Now, you have a sense of humor, I trust, because the hand under the thigh is a metaphor for the genital area, the place where the progeny, the seed comes from. And thus it's a source of life, okay? And then also a source of oath making. So he's got to make the promise. Just let the humor go on, not get distracted by it. The servant said to him, just follow the storyline, it's very critical. The servant said to him, perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Remember again, the first chapter 12, God appears to Abram and says, go to the land that I will show you, and he picks up and he follows. Okay, so this importance of follow was started with the promise in chapter 12, and now it comes back around in a very small way, but you will see the theme is the same. So perhaps a woman may not be willing to follow me back to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Okay, so he uses this as an instance to bring up the question. Abraham said to him, this is a point, and I want you to remember, see to it that you do not take my son back there. Okay, he must not go back, because then it breaks the promise, of the original promise to leave your motherland and go to the place where I will show you, and so on and so forth. Okay, so must not go back, because if you go back, he's going to stay. So that's the key. Do not let him leave the land, because it functions then as a type of exile, right? You left the land where God wants you to be, and you're in someplace else where he doesn't want you to be. Because in this land, he promised to take care of you, okay? He promised to provide. So when that brief sojourn, you remember Abraham went to Egypt during a famine, bad news. Okay, so anyway, So the theme is picked up here in a small way. Then Yahweh, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you. You shall take a wife for my son from there. Okay, so again, faith of Abraham has come full circle. You know, he wavers all the time, but this is example of trust and faith, which is the key that allows God to provide. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this oath of mine. Only you must not take my son back there. Again, repeated for emphasis, okay? And notice this idea of follow, which I've already said, and I'm going to repeat again. It has to do with the woman has to be willing to come and on the same terms, okay? To follow faithfully, to leave, and to come to a new place, a foreign place. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, spoke to him concerning this matter, okay? So the servant has his task. Verse 10. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels, departed, taking all kinds of choice gifts from his master, and he set out and went to Aram Naharim, to the city of Nahor, Abraham's brother. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water. It was toward evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. I am standing here by the spring of water. The daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. Let the girl to whom I shall say, please offer your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels, and let her be the one whom you have appointed, keyword, appointed, for your servant Isaac. Okay, so again, as you know in the stories, husband and wife, both are called to the same point, okay? So notice how this servant is responding by prayer and faith and trust in his petition, okay? This has to be an action of God, okay? Action of God. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master, okay? In other words, steadfast love is an action. Even God has to act if he wants to be a loving God. Before he had finished speaking, there was Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, coming out with her water jar on her shoulder. The girl was very fair to look upon, a virgin whom no man had known. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please let me sip a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw for your camels also until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran again to the well to draw. She drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels and said, tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She added, we have plenty of straw and fodder, a place to spend the night. The man bowed his head and worshiped the Lord and said, blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love. The steadfast love actually is this word hesed, which you may or may have not heard. It's the Hebrew word. It's also often translated grace, okay? Grace, I mean, again, this one word is translated in many ways in our English Bibles. Here, my translation, steadfast love. Yours, it could be grace. You all know this word from the New Testament, okay? It has to do with faithful action, okay? You make a promise, okay? God makes a promise, it is faithful to what he has committed to. So, and his faithfulness towards my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the way to the house of my master's kin. Now, we've already had several instances of hospitality as the key. Had it a few chapters ago before when the three guys, angels, one of them, show up, and Abraham shows hospitality. Lot shows hospitality to the stranger, and before the end of the doom of Sodom and Gomorrah. So we have hospitality here. Okay, so just an important note. This thread continues. Now, so this let me continue before I make another comment. Then the girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Rebecca had a brother whose name was Laban. This is going to be very important in a few chapters. Laban ran out to the man to the spring as soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, that there's some sort of business has taken place. That's my aside. And when he heard the words of his sister Rebecca, thus the man spoke to me. He went to the man, and there he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Oh, come, O blessed of Yahweh, the Lord. Why do you stand outside when I have prepared the house and a place for the camels?" So the man came into the house, and Laban unloaded the camels and gave him straw and fodder for the camels and water to wash his feet. This is the third example of the washing of the feet of hospitality. I say that just to tease you a little bit, because read John chapter 13 in the washing of the feet and understand it in this notion of hospitality, only with a few different details. Wash the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have told my errand." Okay, business first, which is, from the Middle Eastern point of view, it's very hasty. Okay, you do things very slowly, very slowly. There's a ritual to it, but the ritual's been completely sliced. No, he came on one purpose, and that is to find the chosen bride of Isaac. So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. Yahweh, the Lord, has greatly blessed my master, and he has become wealthy. He has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold, male and female slaves, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given him all that he has." Little note there that Isaac receives all the inheritance. "My master made me swear, saying, 'You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live. I shall go to my father's house, to my kindred, and get a wife for my son.' I said to my master, 'Perhaps a woman will not follow me.' But he said, 'Yahweh, the Lord, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you and make your way successful.'" Okay, so repetition. "You shall get a wife for my son from my kindred, from my father's house. Then you will be free from the oath when you come to my kindred. Even if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath." Okay, I'm sorry. This, it's what is odd here is that the story is repeating itself. And anytime you spend time with a repetition, okay, because you're wasting space. It's not like they have unlimited data supply in the cloud. You see, no. This is text written on a scroll, one letter after another. "I came today to the spring," said, "O Lord, the God of my master. If now you will only make successful the way I'm going, I'm standing here by the spring of the water. Let the young woman who comes out to draw, to whom I shall say, 'Please give me a little water from a jar to drink.' To who you'll say, 'Drink, and I will draw for your camels.' Let her be the woman who the Lord has appointed." That's why I read this again, not to bore you, but to catch the appointedness, okay, "for my master's son." Before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebecca, different wife, different time, coming out with her water jar on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew. I said to her, "Please let me drink." Okay, I'm getting tired of repeating this. "Whose daughter are you?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm at 48. Then I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master, who had led me by the right way to obtain the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you will deal loyally, okay, truly with, this is an important verse, okay, and you only know if it's an important verse when you read a few chapters down the road, which will be next week, okay? But I'm telling you now, if you will deal loyally, truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, so that I may turn either to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered, this thing comes from Yahweh, the Lord. We cannot speak to you anything bad or good. Look, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as Yahweh, the Lord, has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. And this, again, notice the constant act of trust and faithfulness is behind this entire chapter. And why the chapter is smooth, without conflict, without difficulty, with ease, okay? The promised son, he's hanging out, doing nothing, because we don't know anything about Isaac yet, other than so far he has it on easy street, That's one way I would describe the Garden of Eden. Just sit back, relax, enjoy the fruit of the ground and of the trees that God is providing. Till the soil a little bit, but without hard labor, because it's plenteous is going to be there. No, just relax. It is the image, again, a new image of the possibility of new life in the new Eden, the land. Anyway, okay, so he bowed before the Lord of the ground, and the servant brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah, also to her brother, to her mother, costly ornaments. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they rose in the morning, he said, send me back to my master. See, we're not on vacation. Had an appointed job. It's done. It's time to go back. Send me back to my master. Her brother and her mother said, let the girl remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that, she may go. But this is another key, so I'm just highlighting for you. Do not delay me, since the Lord has made my journey successful. Let me go that I may go to my master. Okay? In other words, before any temptation, before anything else, possibly everything has been perfect so far. No problems. They called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? She said, I will. So again, so they went away, their sister Rebekah and her nurse, along with Abraham's servants and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, may you, our sister, become thousands of myriads. May your offspring gain possession of the gates of their foes. In other words, will you be victorious over all your enemies? Then Rebekah and her maids rose up, mounted the camels, followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Okay, so let's finish the chapter before I comment. Now, Isaac had come from Beer Lahai Roi. It's a well. We've had it before. The well of life and seeing. That's what the name means. And was settled in the Negev, southern desert area. Isaac went out in the evening to walk in the field, and looking up, he saw camels coming. Rebekah looked up, and when she saw Isaac, she slipped quickly from the camel and said to the servant, who is the man over there walking in the field to meet us? It is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So rarely in the Bible do you get a chapter of perfection. In fact, I mean, talking about this sort of the story that we've been reading from Genesis and whatnot, you do not get a chapter of perfection, where at some point the human frailty, the human sinfulness, the human jealousy, sneaks in and disrupts and causes chaos. Okay, here you have a story of perfection. It's not going to get any better. Isaac is at home. A wife is being promised, fetched, got. Everything is perfect. Okay? So he's the chosen in the sense of God is providing everything. And he has actually, so far in the Isaac story, the Isaac episode of it, has done absolutely nothing. See? It's being done for him. Okay? Nice life, cushy, silver spoon, if you will. Okay? So that's the promised child. Now with his appointed bride, okay? And this is the two elements you need to remember. And then, of course, the providence of God, God providing, okay? Stay in the land, don't move. This is a place you're supposed to be. Just don't go to my former land, don't go to, just stay, just stay. So chapter 25, its beginning here, we're going to read it, is just a little bit odd. And you can ask me, what is its important, especially the first part, because it sounds so strange after everything we've been and read in the story of Abraham and now Isaac's story beginning. Chapter 25 starts with Abraham took another wife. Now, obviously, if you read this like flat movement, okay, he's already an old man and blah, 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 but he took another wife whose name was Keturah. And well, Keturah means incense, by the way. It's a strange name. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua. Joksan was the father of Sheba, and Dedan the sons of Dedan, or blah, 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 but to the sons of the, okay, all these were children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac. This is the second time we've heard this thing. In other words, Isaac is the inheritor of all of that. But to the sons of his concubines, he gave gifts while he was still living, and he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the east country. So Isaac is separated, alone, unique from the rest of Abraham's other children through another wife, which is, to the story, is completely irrelevant. They're just mentioned here, not to be mentioned again. Okay? We'll talk about that in a second. This is the length of Abraham's life. This is verse 7, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in good old age, an old man full of years, and was gathered to his people. His sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the fields of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Mamre, and the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. Then Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah, and after the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac settled back at Beer Laharoi. Okay? So for a brief moment, the two, Isaac and Ishmael, come together to bury the father. End of the Abrahamic story. Okay, end of the Abrahamic story. Now, verse 12. These are the descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, the Sarah slave girl, bore to Abraham. These are the names of his sons, and he lists them, 12 of them. Okay, see, even the next guy, Jacob, Ishmael had 12 sons. Okay. And he breathed his last and he died. Okay, so then these are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Now, we've had this word descendant used multiple times throughout Genesis, okay? And basically it just means the human story, okay? So it has nothing special about it, okay? So-and-so had these children, blah, 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 they had children, blah, 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 and we've seen it multiple times. What I want you to recall, and not that you couldn't remember it, is that when Abraham was introduced to us at the end of chapter 11, it was his father Terah, and Abraham was part of a descendant of Terah. My point is Abraham is not given descendants per se, okay? This word is not used, okay? That's important for later on. Ishmael now has descendants. Isaac has descendants. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, so on and so forth. Isaac prayed to the Lord This is verse 21. It's another key because it reveals how a person believes, acts, behaves. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. Now, remember this struggle over the barrenness of Sarah and her creating a deal to take her concubine. So, and then we had Hagar and Ishmael and so on and so forth, But here, Isaac simply prays. His wife is barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. So, in other words, easy street still. There's a problem. Isaac, the joke, the laughter, prays, God answers the prayer, and she conceives. Verse 22. The children struggled together within her, and she said, if this is to be this way, why do I live? So she went to inquire of the Lord, Yahweh, and Yahweh said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. Okay, so now this statement, you can't say, well, this is because this is God's will or whatnot. It's simply God is telling you what is in her womb. 2 boys that are going to be fighting. Okay? Going to be fighting. If you will, it's a bit of a new take on the story of Cain and Abel, the 2 brothers, the first 2 who one slaughtered the other. Okay, now. So when her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all of his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she was bore them. Okay, so you have to. Now this word red also is the same word that means land. We had it first, Adam is the same root as red. It's a strange thing, other than the clay is a reddish color. In other words, this is important, the reference to land, Adamah, Adam, Adom. Okay, so anyway, Jacob, from the womb is already grasping at his older brother of whatever time, okay? Because this is going to be the definitive characteristic trait of Jacob, and it's in his name, okay? It's in his name. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, a man of the Adamah, while Jacob was a quiet man living in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he was fond of game. Sounds rather shallow. And Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay, so a house divided. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field and he was famished. Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am famished." Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright." Esau said, "I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" If he's going to die. Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew. He ate and drank and rose and went his way. Then Esau despised his birthright. Now, okay, you're now getting a glimpse into the character and the problem of Jacob. Okay, he's going to be a problem until he dies at the end of in chapter 50. Okay, he's going to be a problem, and you already see it. His brother. Okay, does he practice hospitality? You've seen examples of hospitality already in the text. You see some to strangers, let alone to abuse your brother and not to show him hospitality. See? He's fine, So what I, heads up, Jacob is and will be the most evil person in the rest of the story. There is no one more evil than Jacob. And when you see how his final act, there's going to be times where he's a little bit good, but you're going to see that from the beginning, he's conniving, he's finding ways to get what he wants, okay? Not without the prayer, not without the provision, not without anything. In other words, he's going his own way in competition from the womb with his older brother. So, and of course, then Esau doesn't even appreciate what he has, namely his birthright, his place, his order. And from the point of view of progeny, at least from the biblical idea, don't theologize about it. It is God who chooses who's the firstborn, who's the secondborn, and so on. But it's also the God who provides for the totality. Remember the stories of God providing for Ishmael more than once, and so on and so forth. In other words, the idea of the totality. So, chapter 26. If I hadn't told you and you hadn't read it, you should already expect what? A test. Everybody has to be tested. Now there was a famine in the land, Abraham, famine, and sooner or later in the Jacob story in Genesis, there will be another famine. Okay. There was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. Isaac went to Gerar to King Abimelech. We've had him already. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Settle in the land that I shall show you. Reside in this land as an alien. I will be with you. I will bless you. For to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will fulfill the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I'll make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven. Will give you the offsprings of these. Give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations there shall gain blessings for themselves through your offspring, because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." Okay, so again, Isaac has been warned, do not worry about the famine, simply trust, stay in the land. Okay, now this is simply the key, as simple as it is compared to the complexities. It's always the human sinfulness that creates complexity, okay, difficulty. And here it's simply just stay. He's given the promise, of the land, of blessing, of provision, so on. Just stay. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister." We've been down this road twice with Abraham. For he was afraid to say my wife, thinking, or else the men of this place might kill me for the sake of Rebekah, because she was unattractive in appearance. When Isaac had been there a long time, sojourning, King Abimelech of the Philistines looked out of the window and saw him. Now, I don't know what your translation says. Mine says fondling his wife, Rebekah. Okay. The Hebrew is a little bit nicer. It says he was playing with her. Abimelech called for Isaac and said, "So, she is your wife. Why then did you say she is my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought I might die because of her." So there's just a little twinge of lack of trust. Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death." Okay. Isaac sowed seed in the land, and the same year reaped 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich, prospered more and more until he became wealthy. He had possessions of flocks, herds, a great household, so the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped up and filled the earth, all of the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham. You want to get back at your enemies? Steal their water sources. If you know anything about what's going on in the world, you know water is the next oil. See? In the Middle East, the next wars are going to be about water, because who gets the water? Therefore, who gets to live? Okay? Just sad reality. Anyway, the image, okay, the water is a source of life. That's the point. Okay? Source of life for you to eat, sustain yourself. Without water, you're done. Okay, so Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you have become too powerful for us." So Isaac departed from there and camped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. Isaac dug again wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham. For the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a spring of water, the herders of Gerar quickly quarreled with Isaac's herders, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the well Essek, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. He called it Sitnah. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called it Rehoboth, saying, Now, just catch the conclusion. The Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Okay, so he's a little bit like a ping pong ball being bounced back and forth between the forces until finally Rehoboth means sort of a wide area, broad place, okay, room. And now finally he can rest from the tension in the land of promise, in the sense of land that will be promised to the descendants. Okay, so he stayed in the land. From there he went up to Beersheba. That very night the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you, and will bless you, and make your offspring numerous for my servant Abraham's sake." So he built an altar there. He called on the name of the Lord, pitched a tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Okay. Again, it's a strange story if you think, because it's all about water and the digging of wells and relations with the neighbors, and you are a foreigner. Okay, you are a nomadic foreigner. Okay. But the promise of provision, God will take care of it. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzah, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. And Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me, and have sent me away from you?" They said, this is the witness. Now, it's one thing. This is the witness of the outsider. Okay, so take it as an objective. "We see plainly that the Lord Yahweh has been with you. So we say, let there be an oath between you and us. Let us make a covenant with you." We've had this word briefly. "So that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done you nothing but good and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early, exchanged oaths. Isaac sent them on their way. They departed from him in peace. Okay, so all of it's good news. It's possible to live in the land and to live at peace with the neighbors. That same day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug and said to him, "We have found water." Okay, this, as strange as this story is, but if like we've been following it, this is the key. This is the blessing. We have found water. It's a sign. And he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the place is called Beersheba to this day. And when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, so chapter 27. I'm going slower than I thought I would go. When Isaac was old, his eyes were dim, so that he could not see. He called his elder son Esau and said to him, "My son," and he answered, "Here am I." He said, "See, I'm old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver, your bow, go out to the field and hunt game for me. Then prepare for me savory food, such as I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may bless you before I die." Okay. Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau came to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me game, prepare for the savory food to eat, that I may bless you before the Lord before I die. Therefore, my son, obey my word as I command you. Go to the flock, get me 2 choice kids, so that I may prepare from savory food for your father, such as he likes, and you shall take it to your father to eat, that he may bless you before he dies.' But Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, 'Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man. I am a man of smooth skin. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse on myself and not a blessing.' His mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son, only obey my word and go get them for me. So he went out, got them, and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared savory food, such as his father loved. Rebekah took the best of his garments of the elder son, Esau, which were with her in the house, put them on her younger son, Jacob. She put the skins of the kids on his hands, on the smooth part, blah, blah, blah. In other words, they're hatching their scheme. And this is the point. We're going to compare Jacob ultimately with Isaac the father. He went away into his father and said, Father, here am I. Who are you? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. Okay, so not only of the planning and the scheming, but now the lying. I'm Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have told me. Now sit up and eat, so that you may bless me. Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? He answered, lie number 2, because the Lord your God granted me success. Okay, now he's invoking God in his lie. So his hole is not just merely getting deep, it's opening up to the abyss. Isaac said to Jacob, come near, that I may feel you, my son. I know whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went up to his father, who felt him and said, the voice is Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. Are you really my son Esau? He answered, I am. More lies. And he said, bring it to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you. So he brought it to him, he ate, and he brought him wine and drink. And then his father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his garments and blessed and said, ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth, the plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers. And may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you. Blessed be everyone who blesses you. So there you have the stealing of the blessing, with the help of his mother. So already, things are not looking smooth, if you will. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, Jacob came scarcely gone out from the presence of his father Isaac, and his brother Esau came in from his hunting, prepared the food and brought it to his father and said, let my father sit up and eat of the son's game so that you may bless me. His father Isaac said to him, who are you? He answered, I am your firstborn son, Esau. Isaac trembled violently and said, who is it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate before you came, and I have blessed him, yes, and blessed he shall be. In other words, it can't be taken back. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out with an exceeding great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me also, father. But he said, your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing. Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me 2 times. He took away my birthright, and look, now he has taken away my blessing. Then he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered, I have already made him your Lord. See, may your brothers bow down. I have given him all his brothers as servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, father? Bless me also, father. Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then his father Isaac answered him, see, away from the fatness of the earth shall your home be, and away from the dew of the heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother, for when you break loose, you shall break his yoke from your neck. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him, and said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. When the words of her elder son Esau were told to Rebekah, so she sent and called her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, catch this point, obey my voice, flee at once to my brother Laban. We're introduced to him, story of the gathering of Rebekah, her brother. in Haran. Stay with him until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger against you turns away and forgets what you have done to him," as if she wasn't complicit. "Then I will send and bring you back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" So Jacob's actions have led him soon, because he hasn't left yet, will lead him to exile. Okay, Jacob's life will be anything but smooth. It will be a constant story of war, problem, deceit, exile, difficulty, betrayal. It's going to, that we're going to read that, it's, it will form the main plot. Okay, but you can see these are the seeds. Okay? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I'm weary of my life because of the Hittite women." If Jacob marries, if Jacob marries one of the Hittites, women such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be then? Okay, so she's lying to her husband, because in chapter 28, Abraham is going to send Jacob into exile, the same exile that he was not allowed to go. Isaac called Jacob, blessed him, and charged him, "You shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Take as a wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother." Okay, so you have to compare this again to the story of Isaac, which we read. Okay, story of Isaac. "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and numerous, that you may become a company of peoples. May he give to you the blessing of Abraham to you and your offspring with you, so that you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, the land that God gave to Abraham." This is Isaac talking. This is not God talking. "Then Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel, and the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother." So there you have it. Okay. The reason I stressed the importance of the Isaac story and the fetching of the wife and so on has to do when God is acting and others are following and simply listening and doing. Okay, all of this is about the human conniving and supplanting and deceit. Okay, and that is the human story. We've seen it earlier in the story of Cain and Abel and whatnot, and it continues with the various destructions so far in the book of Genesis. Okay, but here, so you have very much the story of Jacob at its beginning. It's beginning on the wrong terms, completely and totally. Okay, and this is the point. I have 8 minutes, so I'm going to finish chapter 28. Okay. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he charged him, "You shall not marry one of the Canaanite women." And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Padan Aram. So when Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please his father Isaac, Esau went to Ishmael, see, the other outcast. Okay, see, even though he is the firstborn of Isaac, he is functionally an outcast. He went to Ishmael and took Mahalath, daughter of Abraham's son Ishmael, and sister of Naboth, to be his wife, in addition to the wives he already had. Jacob left Beersheba, went to Haran, toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to the heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending of it. Okay, so it's an image of a contact between heaven and earth. Okay, it's just an image of contact. And Yahweh stood beside him and said, "I am Yahweh, the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." So Jacob is having his epiphany. Okay. What is similar in this story, Jacob is about ready to go into functional exile away from the land, but God is going to provide, because now he is the heir of Isaac, regardless of the circumstances. In the same way that just as Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, God did not abandon, but provided for them. Okay, provided for them. So then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid. And he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Okay, the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning. He took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on it, on the top of it. And he called this place Beit El, which means house of God. But the name of the city was Luz at the first. And Jacob made a vow saying, okay, catch this, because it'll close up. If God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then Yahweh shall be my God. He's setting the terms, okay? He's setting the terms. If he performs as he said, then I will choose him as my God. And this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give 1/10 to you. Okay, so quickly to sum up, we notice how quickly Isaac comes and goes. He does absolutely nothing. He hangs out for one chapter while the servants go fetch his wife. He has a wife, she's barren, he prays, he's given the child, she becomes pregnant. They have the two sons who are going to be at war with each other, which is foretelling of the struggle that's going to happen. Okay. He's easily duped because old age, infirmity, blind, whatnot, by his wife and his youngest son, so that he inherits everything, and the other one doesn't receive the blessing and is left to his own. But of course, the God always provides, even for the outcast, okay, who are not part of what we call the continuing of the progress of the blessing, And now Jacob, for whatever reason, he is now in exile because of his sins, right? His brother is, he's afraid of his brother will take revenge for what he did to himself. And therefore he's now heading out. But on his way out into exile, he's given the promise. Okay, he's given the promise. And so the whole story will no longer be about Esau. Esau will come back later on in chapter 33 or something, and it'll be a beautiful chapter. It'll be an extraordinary chapter. Okay, and you will feel sad for Esau, but he's like the Abel in the story, okay, the passing one, okay, who was robbed of life or robbed of his place and position by the other brother. But now the story must go through Jacob. And basically the rest of Genesis will occupy us with the story of Jacob, okay, and the tragedy of it all. But there will be only one single bright light, and that will be one of his children. But we'll leave that to later in the study. So this is class 5. As I sent you out. Let me just stop this recording because it doesn't need to be on it.